Welcome back to Sun, Sand, and Soul. Josh Tomey with David Haber, here with Ernesto Cuesta, the president of the Brickell Homeowners Association. Ernesto, we wanted to get into some specific news stories that have been very prevalent, one of which was quite recent, and David and I were talking about in the show open, which is this report that we saw in the news on sinking buildings. And there was a couple of references to some Brickell properties that was happening. Any perspective from the Homeowners Association on that? I'm sure you got a couple of emails or phone calls about it.
Well, actually, we had not experienced that in our area. But from our end, reading what we are reading in the media, where is the county and where are the municipalities that they should be inspecting and making assessment on the buildings?
So one of the themes I'm hearing from you, and it sounds minute, I realize you're a homeowners association, you're a neighborhood association, you're not a legislative body, but clearly between the population that you represent and the level of interaction you're having with government, you're addressing issues that are quite high level. You're not addressing, a bench in a park. This is far beyond the scope of what I think most people imagine.
And holding elected officials accountable, and not just the elected officials, the administrations, the public works people, the people in the parks department, the people in all of the governmental departments to do their job.
Should everybody be doing this? Is your advocacy?
Involvement?
Yeah.
If you don't get involved, again, it's our fault. It's our fault because we don't vote enough. Voting is a privilege, but also is a duty.
Yeah, Costa Rica has a 95% voting rate, and we have a 45% voting rate.
And when you see our percentages of people voting, 11%, 20%.
Yeah, for local
elections,
that's not enough. It's nothing.
Right.
That is not enough.
How then? So I'm going to ask a question then on that high level. How then does Tallahassee begin to recognize the needs of cities like Miami in a way that's reflective of the density of population, the concentration of dollars and tax base? How do we get Tallahassee right? Because I realize the hard work that somebody like Representative Lopez has done, but one legislator out of the House does not make a law.
Getting their attention from us. Getting involved, getting what we do, getting involved and engaged with the state legislatures. The sessions are coming up. Preparing ourselves, like we did this week, for the committees that are going to start working as of January 1st. Because that's where the work is going to...
Yeah, all the legislation is coming out of the committee. It's not coming out of the...
So that's what we're doing.
Right.
That is exactly what we are doing, getting involved. Because, if we don't get involved... Remember, I always consider Dade County, Miami specifically, and Dade County like the toilet of the state legislature. They take most of the monies from us and they appropriate those funds the way that they want it. Why? Because we have not gotten enough respect from our elected officials and from the voters down here in the South Florida.
What do you attribute that to? Do you believe the transient population, the seasonal population?
Apathy, lack of involvement.
Okay, people, you need to vote.
Right.
That's it. And that's what we are very active registering the people to vote and motivating our core because that's the key. That's
I
the
still
only
can't
way.
believe they have 150,000
units.
Right, amazing. It's amazing.
Or 150,000 residents just in the Brickell area. It blows my mind.
Ernesto, how much interaction does the Brickell Homeowners Association have with other City of Miami neighborhood associations? I mean, we know there's Edgewater. There's other active associations.
Are you working with Biscayne Neighborhood Association?
Well, actually, I helped them to start in 2014, downtown Biscayne. I was the one that...
And your director was helping them as well.
Yes.
You lent her.
We loan our director to help them. But it's about leadership. So remember, we have been, this is our 34th year. We are heading next year to the 35th year. We have been around for some time. And we have a structure. We have roots. And that's the way it should be.
And do you talk directly with other leadership at other neighborhood associations? Do you ever have any kind of annual conference or meeting of the neighborhood associations?
No. What we envision right now is to create like a League of Cities.
Sunny Isles.
I'm not going to deny what I'm going to tell you because, I mean, I'm not going to make names, but we had sat already with a representative from other cities because they want to form the same replica that we have for the BHA in those cities. So we are in conversation with elected officials.
And by the way, we're talking about Miami, but the same issues that exist here exist in Palm Beach, they exist in Hallandale, they exist in Hollywood, all the way up the coast. They exist in Jacksonville, Tampa, St. Pete, obviously Naples, Fort Myers, Marco Island, huge buildings, lots of condos. Orlando. Yeah. HOAs also have a lot of the same issues.
Right. Or maybe worse, and we don't know.
Right. And 720 generally, and that's the statute that dictates homeowners association to the state, it's less legislated than 718 is. And so I think
but it should be.
Right. But no, appropriately so. But it would be harder to point out issues there because they can stay quieter longer in 720 than they can in 718.
Involvement is the key and the answer to, again, we need to help you to be successful so we can do better.
So a question that I've got a couple of questions to follow up, and especially because of my history in property management, I'm interested in your perspective. You mentioned earlier before we went to break that one of the legislative efforts you're making this year is to mandate the use of a property management firm in the event of a 25-unit or larger condominium association. What has your experience been like with management companies? Do you feel like the industry is improving? Are there still issues that you'd like to see resolved? One of the things that I know, being from the industry, is that there's been a lot of consolidation of management. There's been more and more large companies like the First Service Residentials, the Associates, now Odebo with KW Management, which are much larger firms. And there's plenty of people who say that's actually a good thing because there's more resources. There's more consistency.
Castle.
Without having to name names, how do you feel like the industry is doing on the whole?
I think that the industry is consolidating itself. It's like what happened with the airlines a few years ago. Is it
sophisticating? Is it getting more sophisticated?
I think so. I think that there is more money, that they're putting more money into their operations. I think it's healthy. Now, I feel that it's better to have more than one company. Competition is good.
Sure.
I think that I would like to see more companies, more than the existing one. So the owners will have more options.
Let me ask you a question. What do you say to the buildings who say, I don't want to pay a management company this much money. I don't want to pay for the accounting. I agree with you. Because again, the dollar you spend now saves you $10 later. What do you say to the buildings who say, I don't want to pay for accounting and I don't want to pay this much for a manager and I don't want to pay?
You need a structure. And with all these laws that are coming and they're not going to go away, by the way.
No, there are going to be more laws.
And they're going to be enforced. And they're going to be enforced. And they're going to be financial consequences and legal consequences. You need to have professional people guiding you. You know what? And that's not the work of the board.
Some board members think it is.
No. If you have a board that is micromanaging the property management that they hire, you are deceiving the stockholders.
Right.
And what do you say to the boards that don't want to spend money on legal fees and don't want to have contracts reviewed? And it's a big mistake, isn't it?
Well, they do things. They are either ignorant, or I don't know. They really don't care about their investment.
Ernesto, given the relative newness of Brickell and the number of new buildings that are being concentrated there, how do you also feel like technology is playing into the view of both the neighborhood association and individual condos? Because obviously we're now at an era where technology is a day-to-day part of our life process, whether it's access control, payment platforms, artificial intelligence.
I feel we're behind. We are behind.
That's what we said yesterday. We are behind. We had someone from Tenant Evaluation. We had Luis Turan. And we were talking specifically about property technology.
We are not using it. We are not using it.
And I think, and Josh thinks, we're behind other industries using AI, using computerized software.
I tell you what, there is a combo there. I think that the industry, property management industry, is behind, in my opinion, as a whole in technology. And also, on behalf of the associations and board members, that they don't see the need, paperless, security, to invest because it's about money. They don't want to invest in those solutions.
But it saves time, which gives management the
So,
ability to really
I think
do
that
the
we
other
have
things.
to push. We have to push for better software, better technology, because it's going to help everybody.
Like I imagine on a legislative basis, one of the things, and it seems like a simple fix, if the condominium documents are not written this way from inception, that there is still a minimal, but there's still a barrier to electronic voting, something as simple as that, by having to go through an approval process for it to say, as opposed to saying the statute's just universally supportive of it.
But I blame boards. They don't want it.
Right.
Most of them, they don't want it.
Because they don't want to get thrown out of office.
Exactly.
Let's call it the way it is.
Let's eliminate the 20% threshold.
And let's force people to require electronic voting so that more people can participate.
Right.
Everybody is online.
You know, I'm not
Maybe not in Wyoming, but definitely in Miami.
I'm not a friend of mandates and too many laws and requirements and restrictions and things like that. But there have to be laws that protect owners. And these laws that have been enacted is to protect unit owners, is to protect the life of people. And we need to continue changing, because there are two things that I learned from my grandmother. She said there are two things that you cannot
I
go
bet you
against.
she said them in Spanish.
In two languages, and I'm going to go into that.
You could say it. We have a big Spanish listening
Spanish,
audience.
Hebrew, and you name it. She was very straightforward. She said you cannot go against Mother Nature, and you cannot go against progress.
Wise advice.
Very wise.
Wise advice. Ernesto, there is a new industry springing up from within the condo industry, and there's quite a bit of it concentrated in downtown and some in Brickell as well, which is a second generation of condo hotel. Transient use, more condominium associations that are governed slightly differently, that have more developer influence over things like common areas. And we can talk about advantages
Shared
and disadvantages,
components.
shared components. But it clearly has picked up a lot of momentum. There's been a lot of that in the news as well. Do either you or the neighborhood association have any perspective on that? Because that's obviously a very different version of neighborhood participation.
It is what it is. It is progress. Dynamics is nothing lasts forever.
Right. I mean, one of the
I don't think that we should go.
truth?
I don't think that we should go against anything like that, as long as they follow rules and regulations, pay the taxes. They are not breaking the law.
Right.
It's like Airbnb. Airbnb, whether people like it or not, whether I like it or not, is here to stay. It's a business. The problem with Airbnb is that if Airbnb is done illegally in a condo whose condo docs are not allowing them, that's illegal. If they are not registered with the city and the county, that's illegal. And if they don't have a license, that's illegal. But aside from that, if you abide by the law, it is the law.
Right.
Do you have a personal opinion regarding condominiums having right of first refusal and the ability to approve or disapprove of tenants or owners?
That is up to the owner.
So basically,
That's up to the
your
owner.
view is majority rules or supermajority rules, and whatever the owners decide, those should be the rules. And in your view, whatever the rules are, you live and die by the rules.
That's the bottom line.
Okay.
I think that's fair.
Okay.
That is fair.
Right now, if there were one thing that you were able to single-handedly change in condominiums in Florida, whether it was legal, from a governance perspective, what would that one thing be? What do you think would be the single most consequential change that you could wave a magic wand and say, it's done?
Great question. That's a great question.
One thing
one
that
for you.
I tell you is the 20% voting.
it's hard not to imagine that having really
huge impact.
a huge impact.
I think that will change.
Yeah, because then you'll have a turnover of board membership.
You are disenfranchising people that they want to serve.
What's the argument against it? I mean, from any any legislative effort, because I mean, obviously it sounds like
to me it doesn't make any sense.
It sounds like
we against it.
It sounds like you're putting together.
I mean, do we have a threshold in normal elections?
Nope,
of course not.
Okay, let me go farther. Like
and 10% typically vote in a local election.
Let me example. Last week, 11% went to vote on a very important election of a key commission or elective official in Doral. Only 11% went to the polls and elected that person.
But they're still elected.
Elected. Every single association is like a municipality.
Great point.
So then what is your group planning on doing to make that argument? And who are you arguing against? Why? What are the arguments that you've heard against that, if there are any? Or is it apathy at a legislative level? We're simply not going to consider it?
I tell you, there were few key, I will say, prominent lawyers in Miami that they looked to me not happy with it.
Not me.
And they were...
But I know why. Because then they get changed out as law firm because a new board may want a new law firm.
And some property management companies feel the same way. Same thing. But you know what?
That's life.
You have to integrate everybody.
That's right.
You are disenfranchising people that they want to serve.
Right.
And that's we are very strong on that. I mean, we need to change that.
So then a last question for you before we depart. 2025 coming up, we know the weight that 4D has on this year, and even though there's some ways to extend it, what are your expectations for this year? What do you think is going to happen for your neighborhood as well as beyond in terms of what's been passed and what's now going to be enforced?
Well, I tell you, realistically, this is what we are seeing now. We are under a camouflage recession. It's going to be a rough year. This year is going to be a rough year because still associations are still in denial. They are not funding their SERS 100%. We're still in the crisis. The crisis, condo crisis, are going to get a little bit
and interest
worse.
Rates are not going to go down as much as people
They're not going to go down.
think. And by the way, and then you have to wait a minute. And then what's going to happen is when you have to get that loan for the special assessment and to fund all these things, it's not going to be at 3% or 4% or 5%.
Another thing, insurance rate are not going to go down. Right. Why? Because if any property is not abiding by the laws,
they're going to be lucky if they can get insurance.
You are not insurable.
Right.
So it's about...
That's a whole nother issue.
It's about the law.
Right.
Yeah.
It's about the law and following what you have to do in order to preserve lives. That's the bottom line.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing what your neighborhood association is continuing to do, the Brickell Homeowners Association. And it sounds like they're under great leadership with you, Ernesto.
Thanks, Ernesto, for being with us today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. We enjoy it.
Thank you for watching Sunset and Sold. I'm Josh Tomey with David Haber. Please join us on all of our social media and streaming channels, including YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music,
and X,
Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We'll see you again next time.